This is June 21st, 1984, regular session. It's the fourth regular session with BEF, session number 1042. Okay, that's good. Are you comfortable? Do you have any perceptions there at 10?
No, I'm just kind of hanging out with myself. I feel like I want to go up to 12 anyway.
Okay. Well, let's proceed then on up to Focus 12. State of expanded awareness and report in. Just let your whole self move into that expandedness.
12, I can sense that energy that we've been dealing with. Feels pretty intense today, and I'm trying to find a hook, a grapple hook to latch onto it. Something that'll keep me with the energy and keep me in a 12 or a 15 anyway.
Well, why don't you just relax and then go with your own flow there.
Greetings from the Pleiades group. Pleiades?
Mm-hmm. Good.
I'm having a visual sense of a flying saucer. Talk about high tech. First I saw the outside and the inside simultaneously. Very elaborate. No rivets on the outside. Okay, I'm getting a motion to come aboard, so let's see what I can't do.
Okay, stay in touch.
Inside is a baby, a child that's up here visiting with her mom, 15 months old. Her energy's with me in this thing.
Now, is this a child of your acquaintance or a child that has appeared with them?
No, a child of my acquaintance. Earthling from Tampa. Okay, this is my first dealings with extraterrestrial energy occurred in August of '82. I was up here camping with some friends in this area, and this child was in her mother's womb at the time. Her mother didn't know she was pregnant then. And so she was there. And during some meditations, contacted what appeared to be extraterrestrial energy. And the lady who I was with, her and I last night came to agreement that this was most likely tracking the same energy. Okay. Okay, I'm out of the spaceship. That seemed to be establishing some connections. Again with the child. Any purposes there I can't detect right now. I think for the time being it's just sufficient to have gained a recognition of some form of connection there, wherever that connection may lie. question was posed about the government, the political structure. They're somewhat anarchists. Their energy is such they have leaders, but the energy is such that there's not conflict. Each being has a sense of its own direction. Each being knows its function in the whole. So why should the being strive for different states? Do you follow that?
No, not exactly. Do they have a form of communication with one another that's different from ours or similar to it?
In some respects it's similar. They would consider themselves, especially in regard to Earth, as an advanced civilization. Writing the comparable, it's some pretty strange things here, comparable to our film and television, but it is on, I kind of see it and have a sense of it, but it's quite incomprehensible. That's the state of the art. They are also quite conversant with telepathy, especially in family units, family structures, where there is the equivalent of a blood bond. Their leaders are more apt to possess a full range of telepathic capability. Again, this is dealing with political structures. Their monastic order, which I contacted during the gateway. This is interesting. There's a little bit of confirmation there. The analogy is drawn. If we were to take our religious leaders, those adept in the esoteric arts, use that almost underlined as a basis for the average person in their civilization. As one gains entrance into the monastic order, consider their powers of perception so enhanced, so keenly developed and refined, that we are almost as apes to them. There is a fine, meaning intricate, connection between this group and Earth. There is a bond of energy, almost like they are us and we are them, but in different frames of time. Perhaps those who survive the technological advances of Earth in future years will appear similar in biological function, political and religious structure as this group here. And in turn they look upon us as their heritage. So they cannot abuse or willfully destroy those connections, because it would be the same as doing harm to themselves. but there is somewhat the sense of a warning not to take advantage because their rules do not preclude taking whatever action is necessary for their own well-being, so that while they are one and the same, they also consider themselves distinct. I have the sense that that message is clear the way it's given. Is this so?
Well, it sounds as if they're saying that they are like aspects of us, or we are like aspects of them, and yet there's still a distinction.
Correct. We must refine the aspects. The aspects are in terms of energy more than psychological components, and yet in refined psychological thought, that could hold true. I get a sense of being tentative in how they wish the lines, the connecting lines, to be drawn between them and us, keeping it as a dual structure for purposes of preliminary investigation and knowledge. They subscribe that ultimately all energy exists and with a common basis. But this is energy, and the rules that their monastic order might draw forth from that reasoning do not apply to the civilization as a whole. I have a sense of military units. They are not foreboding, but they are quite capable of being used. I get a smile. In other words, we should just watch our step if we find ourselves confronted. For example, if we were, it would be rather foolish and reckless to think that our tin cups and toys, that's an allusion to our military. It would be quite a mistake to pit our military against their technology. If there ever was a loser in a ball game, Earth would sure to be it. There is no menace in that. It's more like, that's just the way it is. Let's get some ground rules established for better interaction and communication.
Yeah, well, here in the present times, there's certainly nothing on our part that would be threatening or opposing to them.
You do not speak for your political structures, obviously.
No, I'm talking about us here, at the present moment here in the Institute, in our efforts to open communication.
If they had perceived a threat, they would have bypassed the Institute. They recognize that there is the possibility of a true source of communication using the Institute as a vehicle.
Yes, well, I am wondering about the question of their superior capacity to, if we should oppose them. That's not brought into question here in the laboratory or in the institute. We certainly accept that as a given.
I get the sense that this is establishing a framework for somebody or something outside the institute to use as a reference. I think they're looking at the institute as a vehicle, a channel in and of itself, to make other connections outside of the institute. I get it correct on that.
Okay, can we get a sense of purpose from their perspective of our contact with them?
That can be approached from a variety of angles. From one, it is a natural function of both species to reach out and apprehend knowledge. This is only one manifestation of that endeavor. On another one, I sense a very genuine and almost emotionally overwhelming intent on their part that they have no objections whatsoever in imparting their knowledge to us to enable our development. In turn, they may ask, from one range, their vehicles are indeed physical. It is true that the physical is somewhat illusory, but be very cautious with that, because it is also real. There are just underlying frameworks to the physical, and in that sense it is illusory. And so their physical ships require certain combinations, chemical, physical, energy, really intense energy. I get the feeling that it blows away nuclear power. For these reactions, they dip into our minerals. This is not a question of choice for us. It is just what they do. I get the feeling that a hard line is being drawn in certain areas just to make us take time and explore them, which they have no objection, in a rational and coherent and ultimately, in our reference, spiritual manner.
Well, their approach seems to be rather tentative. Is this indicative of their belief on their part that we might panic at the reception of further information about them?
This is correct, but they feel fine with the Institute, but they also have to be responsible for the implications. and they also sense a responsibility to people at large. They think it is a mistake to isolate the Institute. They understand the intent of the Institute. But you are correct in assessing that it is a tentative exploration. It is a test. I get the impression that their overwhelming consideration is, as you said, to avoid panic and also keep the military establishment from viewing it as a threat and going after them in a military fashion. As such, hard lines, tentative maneuvers are required. Which they consider good diplomacy.
Yeah, can they give us any guidelines for the directions in which we should be developing our contacts with them?
I get a firm sense of myself on that. Okay, there's also others here at the Institute, and there are people around the world who are nurturing contact with them. I get a sense of published material. I get a sense of their inserting certain material in films. As far as the Institute, keep your channels open. Continue on a present course. I just get the feeling that the Institute's doing fine.
Can you get from them an indication whether they are a part of any sort of hierarchy? Are there others who are in relation to them as they are in relation to us?
Unquestionably, that might be best served in a session dealing solely and specifically with their monastic order. Before an interest was expressed in political structures, therefore, we are dealing now with a political unit, a diplomat. Yes, a diplomat. We have a single entity who is handling the contact with this session. And I get the feeling that it would be rude to bypass this entity during this session.
Well, we're perfectly happy to deal with this particular entity. Can you get a name or an identification for our future, if we want to contact in the future through this same entity? Is this our point of access, and if so, how should we go about contacting him or it?
First, organize your list of questions along political or social lines. Okay. That will establish the intent of the session, the particular explorer you choose, should be and feel adequate to that frame of reference. In other words, the intent of the session, both of all concerned, should be geared to the particular areas of exchange you wish to explore. Okay, give me a second for a name here. Okay, there are several diplomats who will handle the task from their end. I started to have a sense of this person or this entity's name, and then I got just used Charlie. Okay, I'm getting a head shake on that.
Is that an affirmative shake?
Yes, that's an affirmative shake. That later, when the communication becomes more fluent, perhaps it will be possible to understand this entity's name in their native tongue, so to speak.
Well, Charlie will do just fine.
Okay, yeah, and from a personal point of view, though, their language is kind of interesting, you know. But yeah, okay.
Well, for purposes of this session, before we're finished, I would like to get a better picture in my mind than I do have about just their meaning of the and use of the term political and political structures. You see, we see ourselves here as somewhat outside of the political structures of our current times and place, and view all beings, all entities as equal in value, without a structure placed around that for governing. Now, if they are interested in helping us understand a political picture, can you get a little more clarifying information from them?
Okay, they understand the concerns in your philosophical reference. They again consider unwise to view the Institute as separate. The political structures are in terms of function. For example, Charlie, his role, his job, as it were, is that of a diplomat. In our terms, that is part of a political structure, or a political undercurrent, if you will. They are quite self-governing, and yet these structures automatically exist because it is the part of their order, just as there is an order to nature as we understand the trees and the bees. And I get a sense that their energy comes forth in those terms, since we on Earth have political structures that do govern, sway, and guide planetary citizens. Do you understand the point?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I seem to be getting a wave goodbye here from Charlie. He stresses the hard line approach for the time being in a friendly manner. Just not so much that there will be but just to ensure no abuses or excesses will occur. Or at least, if not assuring them, at least knowing that he has done his utmost to protect his people in establishing communication. And with that, he bids good day.
Well, we thank him and bid him good day. And with his withdrawal, is this the end of the extraterrestrial contact, or are there others that would speak? We're nearing the end of our own session here.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask, how much time we had. I guess we can call it quits for today, for the ETs. Perhaps later we can get back to their monastic order. That would be fun. Some other session. But if I got a couple minutes, I'd like maybe just to check out a few things on my own. Do I have time?
Yes, go ahead. Take a couple of minutes.
Pretty good. If you'd like to phase it all out, that's fine with me. Otherwise, I'll hang out.
Well, why don't you now begin to count yourself back and let me know when you say get back to 10, and then we'll bring you on out from there.
Okay.